Hi, and welcome back to another episode of Gear Hall of Shame. Today we're looking at DRAHOS. He's one of the most famous rare heroes, and I've talked about him before in my video, my top 10 yellow rare, so do check that out if you haven't already. Believe he is in my top 3 because I use him all the time. I use him against my red, green, and blue raid bosses, 6-star level 6 raid bosses, and I currently have this guy in a war team as well. So definitely one of my favorite rare heroes overall, in fact, and that's because of his passive ability to gain 50 mana whenever an ally is killed. That means that it's super easy to charge him up, and he's going to be resurrecting that dead ally immediately or almost immediately. That's what you want to see in a very hardworking reviver, so he's highly recommended by me. With DRAHOS, you have two possibilities, either fast or tanky. That's the same for any revive hero. You can either go fast or you go tanky. As you can see by my use of Swift Set, I've gone for fast with him, and that's purely because I've gone for using him in my raid boss teams. I will explain a little bit more about using DRAHOS in war and in the raid boss battles towards the end of the video, so do stick around. But first of all, we're gonna review his gear. So if we look at this build, I've gone for a Swift Set and Life Set. That's pretty vanilla, but it's okay. If we look at his stats, I've got a 36k HP, which is moderate, sub 3k defense, which is rather low, but whatever. Attack is low, but I don't need it. Speed 365 is actually very high for a rare in my experience. I would say, as a rule of thumb for me, in a rare, I look for a fast rare, I would look for around 330. So this is definitely a very fast rare by my standards. Resistance of 53 is pretty low. I would like to see it a little bit higher if I was playing the resistance game in war. Accuracy is not needed. He doesn't put debuffs on anyone. CR and CD are not needed. He doesn't hit anyone. Mana gain of 19 is quite low, but that doesn't really matter because his passive ability does all the heavy lifting. I've never had a problem with DRAHOS not gaining enough mana. And of course, I have a shitty defense HP relic on him, just any random rare relic. I could have gone for a speed relic, but I'm saving those for the heroes that need it more. And again, my speed is already pretty fast, so I didn't feel I needed it. I'm just putting a relic on for the sake of increasing his power a little bit, but probably this relic is not doing very much either. So if we look at the individual pieces, this one is a 5-star rare piece, and I'm already feeling my energy drop as I look at this because it is so fucking terrible. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to swear. But it is really terrible. So this is an HP percent piece. As the first substat, sorry, HP percent is the first substat. This is an attack piece. HP percent is good. Next substat is speed. I've got 2 rolls there. Also good. CD, not needed. HP flat, I don't like. Moving on. This is even more terrible than the first piece. But I'm remembering not to swear this time. So this is a 5-star HP piece. CD is not a good substat for this hero. Got 2 rolls on speed, which is halfway decent. And then I've got flat attack, flat defense. Terrible, terrible. Let's not think about it too much because it's just depressing. Okay, the next one is a 5-star epic piece. So we have got some flat HP with 1 roll. That's okay. CD, again, why does it keep giving me CD? I don't need CD, useless. Then I've got speed with 2 rolls. That's decent. And then I've got resistance. Yeah, it's okay. It's pretty good. So what I would have liked in this piece is probably to transfer the roll on flat HP over to a roll on res, and then probably instead of flat HP and CD, just to see HP percent and defense percent. That would have been a good piece of gear. Okay, moving on to the gloves. We have 6-star gloves. 6-star HP percent gloves always make me happy. But this is a rare piece, so it's not so good. It's got 2 rolls on speed, which is good. It's got attack percent, which is not good. It's got defense percent, which is good. It's got accuracy, which is not needed. So this is like a mediocre piece of gear. I've only got it because of the 2 rolls on speed. Otherwise, it would have been sold a long time ago. Armor. So this chest piece is a 6-star defense percent piece. I could have gone with a 6-star HP percent piece as well, but this is what we have for today. So we have an accuracy substat, not needed. Speed with 2 rolls, good. Resistance, good. Defense, flat. Can F off, seriously. This is, again, like a mediocre piece of gear. Finally, we got to the boots. So this is legendary 5-star boots. That means the speed will go to 40 instead of 43 for a 6-star boot. But the real problem with this pair of boots is substats. So first of all, we have flat HP, not very good. Then we have CD with 2 rolls, which is beyond useless. Then we have defense percent with 1 roll, which is okay. And then we have resistance with 1 roll, which is okay. So I'm not very happy with the 2 rolls on CD here. I would have preferred to see maybe 2 rolls on defense percent, 2 rolls on res, and then even better would have been to have had an HP percent substat in there. That would have been perfect. I would say that the best piece in this set of 6 trashy pieces is these HP percent gloves with the 2 rolls on speed and some defense percent, followed by the defense percent chest with the 2 rolls on speed and a little bit of res. Worst piece would be this helmet with 3 substats that I really don't care about and a little bit of speed. So this, I would say, is a hero with some really terrible gear, but he is doing actually a decent job for me right now. And as I said, I'll talk about how he does in war and in the raid boss. So let's first talk about war. I would say he is sufficient in war. He's not very good with this build. If I wanted to make him better, I would swap out the life for some cover set. The cover set would help him be more resistant against battering rams and a ballista, which is the most common combination of war machines to kill one hero straight away. One consideration you might have when you think, should I put cover set on a revive hero or not, is the speeds of your other heroes. So if I've got, let's say, 1 fast hero, 2 fast heroes, and the rest of my war defense heroes are slow in that particular team, I might put a cover set just to protect that reviver. Whereas, let's say 3 or 4 of my war heroes are fast, then it wouldn't really make sense to put a cover set there. So let's give an example. Let's say I've got DRAHOS, he's at 365, and let's say, I don't know, I've got Hempe at 360 and Rhonda at 350 and Inula at 340. I'm just making these numbers up. But let's say I've got these 4 very fast heroes between 340 and 365. Well, in my view, a fast rare hero is 330 up. So if I'm gonna be fighting with if I'm gonna be on defense and the person on offense is gonna have their fastest hero at 330, that means I'm gonna get all my 4 turns in before the attacker starts to have 1 turn, right? Because my heroes are 365, 360, 350, 340. I'm going to take turns 1, 2, 3, 4. The attacker is going to take turn 5. And my cover set has already expired at the end of turn 3. So the instance where cover set doesn't help with a reviver is if you've got 3 heroes moving before the enemy. And in which case, you don't really need to bother because that cover is going to expire worthless. So that's still what this particular combo is good for. If I was going to build him in a team with a mixture of fast and slow heroes, it would be better if I switched out his life set for a cover set. And then a note on making him tanky. So definitely if you make him tanky, he does benefit from a cover set. And just to give a tip, sorry, I'm not looking at immunity, I'm looking at cover. So if we look at the cover set, it says it grants 30% protective shield for 3 turns. If you equip 2 sets of cover, so 4 pieces, that isn't going to give you twice the amount of shield, so it doesn't give you 60 shield. It gives an extra 3 turns. So it'll give you 6 turns of cover set instead. Now, obviously, if you've got 6 turns of cover, that would protect your faster heroes beyond the first 3 turns, but it's very difficult to build a fast hero without using Swift set. So that's why the Swift set with the cover is not really going to work out there. You could have a tanky hero and then put 4 pieces of cover set there, and then he would have the shield for 6 turns. That's fine. That's maybe something fun you could do. But in most cases, 2 pieces of cover set, so just 1 set of cover, is enough to deter an attacker from killing your hero straight away at the start of the war battle. And then let's talk about DRAHOS in the raid boss. So I use him all the time. I use him with Stenko. And the reason for that is I'm currently fighting against 6.6 raid bosses. And at this level, you need to rethink your raid boss strategy compared to anything up to like a 6.2 or a 6.3. A 6.5 or a 6.6 raid boss has a very high attack and a very high speed, to the extent that it's very hard to mitigate this unless you use one of 2 strategies. Number 1, a very strong taunt tank. Number 2, a fake tank, which is a dying and reviving target. So a very strong taunt tank is easy to understand. You can use someone like Najar or Kalem built them extremely tanky, put taunt on them, the raid boss has no choice but to attack into that hero, and hopefully you've built that hero with enough survivability that the hero will survive tiles and specials and everything's fine, hunky-dory. Second strategy is like to use the dragon's strength against it. So it's like, you know, the, what do you call it? The Wu-Tang type of martial arts where you kind of use the enemy's strengths against them. So you know that the raid boss has a very strong attack. You deliberately bring in a very weak hero, and the most common hero for this is Stanko at 3.1. The raid boss attacks into Stanko. Stanko dies. And then you use a reviver to bring Stanko back alive. And that's one way of getting around having to build a very strong tank. Obviously, the disadvantage of this team is you have to you have to use 2 hero slots just to make your reviving loop. So let's say a strong taunt tank team, you have 1 taunt hero and then you have 4 heroes left to do damage against the raid boss. With a revive loop team, you have 2 heroes which are going to die and then revive, and then you only have 3 slots left to do your damage. So that is definitely a big disadvantage, and one reason that I hope this looping strategy is not going to go anywhere. I do believe that it is balanced and that it's not a cheat in my view. So with that, I'm gonna talk a little bit more about why it's such a disadvantage, despite also actually being a very powerful strategy. So let's take the red raid boss. I usually bring in Stanko, DRAHOS, Guinevere, Far, Elgath, let's say. Far and Elgath are both damage dealers, so they're slow. Stanko keeps dying, so his speed is irrelevant. And that means I've got 2 heroes where I can maybe manipulate their speeds a little bit. So that's DRAHOS and Guinevere. Some people don't know this, but the key to surviving and doing well in a raid boss battle is to be very precise with your hero's speeds. So a lot of people intuitively know that if you have some fast heroes, you can get some nice turns against the raid boss. I think in the olden days, long ago, it was common to bring Aurora into every raid boss fight, try to build her speed above 400 so you could get the first turn before the raid boss and everything. So it's kind of intuitively obvious that high speed helps you. What's not intuitively obvious is you want to stagger the speeds of your heroes. One of the easiest ways to die in a raid boss battle is to let the raid boss have 2 or 3 turns in a row, because what does the dude do? The dude fires tiles into your first hero, kills your first hero, probably charges on mana, fires his special, does like big damage to the team. Now that your tank is dead, tiles your weakest hero, probably your damage dealer. So now you have 2 dead heroes. Then if the raid boss has a 3rd turn, tiles then your weakest remaining hero. So then you probably have 3 dead heroes right away. And that's the moment when you want to throw your phone across the room, especially if this is happening to you regularly. So what you want to do if this is happening to you is you want to stagger out your speeds, right? Please don't have 5 heroes all with 250 speed. That is not a good sign. Ideally, you'll want maybe one hero to have, let's say, 370 speed, and then you'll have one that has maybe 330 speed, and then you have one that's around 300 speed, and then you have one that's like 270 speed, and then one that's maybe 240 speed. That would be perfect. There is some calculation involved, but basically the more you stagger out your speeds, the harder it is for the raid boss to have turns in a row. So you're most likely to have the raid boss take just one turn, and then it's you, and then it's the raid boss again, and then maybe you have 1 or 2 turns, and then it's the raid boss again, and that's optimal really for a strategy, especially using Stenko and DRAHOS. Now, when you use Stenko and DRAHOS, with the example that I mentioned, Far and Elgath are slow. So maybe those are the two heroes at 240 and 270 speed. Stenko's speed doesn't matter because he keeps dying, which means I actually have to fill the whole range between, let's say, 270 and 370 with 2 heroes, DRAHOS and Gwyn. And you can imagine that's very challenging because I only have 2 heroes to do it with. So I have my DRAHOS at 365, which is nearly 370, and then I have my Gwyn, I can't remember off the top of my head, but I believe she's at around 330, 340. You can check my Gwyn gear review video as well. So with, DRAHOS and Gwyn, I've covered the speed range a little bit. If I was using a taunt tank strategy, I could have maybe a taunt hero at the 300 mark and then cover my base much more easily. I could have then maybe, still a hero at 340, 350, and then another hero at 370, 380. That would be slightly better and easier to manage in terms of the raid boss taking turns in a row. So that's my way of saying that even though I do love using DRAHOS on a 6.6 raid boss team, dear devs, if you listen to me at all, please do not nerf this mechanic, because I do believe that it's not OP. There are disadvantages and advantages. But if you're not familiar with using DRAHOS, I would recommend that you do use him. He's an awesome hero in my view. I use him everywhere. I use him every week, all the time. Even though he doesn't have good gear, which is a euphemism, even though he has absolutely awful and terrible gear, he does a good job for me. And for me, that's the mark of a great rare hero. So let me know what you think. It really genuinely helps me out if you leave a like and a comment. It tells YouTube that these videos are worth watching. And basically, if without that, YouTube just won't show my videos. So fewer people would see them. That's not very nice. If you can, it also really helps if you share or encourage someone else to watch. That also helps with the algorithm. Let me know if there's a particular hero that you want to see, especially at the epic or rare hero. I can't promise that I've got every hero equipped, but I do have a bunch of heroes equipped, and I will try to help you out if I can. ran out of things to say, I think. Thank you so much for supporting and watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.